Hey everyone, it's Naked. And for a little background, I'm an Eterna 6 player who's been playing Deadlock for a little over a year now. I've been enjoying Billy a lot and wanted to put out a guide on him. Billy's a disrupting frontlining hero. He can go in, cause mayhem, while being able to tank for his team and put out a decent amount of damage. Billy can be played a few different ways, but in this video, I've been focusing on a spirit melee build. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about Billy's abilities now. Billy's first ability is called Bashdown. Billy slams his bat into the ground, pulling enemies down and dealing melee damage. The slam creates a shockwave that deals spirit damage and applies knockup. Bashdown is going to be your main ability you are using to put out damage and disrupt the fights. Billy's second ability is called Rising Ram. Billy charges headfirst into an enemy and sends them into the air along with Billy. This is Billy's gap closing ability and will help set him up for his combos. Billy's third ability is called Blasted. Blasted has two parts to it, one a passive and the other is activated. The passive of Blasted is melee hits restore ammo, inflict wrecked on the enemy. The active portion to Blasted is Billy empowers his weapons. Melee boosts max health and bullets are amplified against wrecked enemies. Dealing weapon damage lets Blasted go longer. Blasted lets Billy be a frontline tank and is what makes Billy unique compared to other frontliners like Abrams, Moen Krill, and Shiv. Billy's ultimate is called Chain Gang. Chain nearby enemies to you. Chained enemies cannot use movement abilities and receive a heavy slow when they pull on the chain. After a delay, yank everyone towards Billy and deals spirit damage. Chain Gang is going to help you bring people into Billy's effective range and help cause chaos in the fights for your opponents. Now that we've talked about Billy's abilities, let's see them in game, starting with Bashdown. So Bashdown does both melee damage and spirit damage. So that means it will proc melee items and it will proc the spirit debuff items. Something to note is when you max Bashdown, it says it now deals 60% heavy melee damage. It is considered a heavy melee attack. So it does work for things like the Spirit Snatch and Life Strike cooldown, and it does work for the second portion of Crushing Fist's stacking debuff. But it does not work with the melee charge passive for some reason. I think it is bugged, and hopefully by the time this video comes out, it is fixed. Something else to note about the ability is it is a charged ability, so it will benefit from extra charge and rapid recharge. And this is what the ability looks like. It's just a small AoE that when you hit somebody, they fly up into the sky. Something to note about this ability that it's not stated is that when you hold the ability key, you stay in the air for a little bit longer, like this. At first, it might not really seem like much, but there are some uses. Some like lining up your ability, waiting for people to like hook. The biggest thing I've found is it does maintain momentum off of zip lines, so you can do something like this in lane or in a like leading into a fight like this. And then here's maybe another example where I hold it a little bit longer. My stamina back. So you can kind of see that I carry my momentum and I am just able to, enter the fight with a bash down instead of trying to use my rising ram. Something else to note is that when you pull people down, you do cancel their movement abilities. So like let's say this Vindicta is up in the air and you're able to get above her and bring her down to the ground like this. You do stop her flying ability. So this is very good against heroes like Lash, Great Talon, anyone in the air really. So now let's talk about Rising Ram. So on impact, Rising Ram does spirit damage. Something to note is you can hit multiple people with Rising Ram, but the hitbox is pretty small. This is what the ability looks like. You just charge forward, you bring you and your opponent up into the sky. So you can kind of combo it with bash down, where you can pull them back down to the ground, like this. Another thing to note about this ability is you do have movement, like you can turn in this ability. So you can go left, you can go right, and you can do something like a 180. So like let's say you're being chased, you can kind of use it to go around a corner real quick and kind of further the gap. Now let's talk about Blasted. So the first part of Blasted, when you melee somebody, you inflict the wrecked debuff, and it's going to just give them negative 15% fire rate, and that's pretty much all there is to that passive. Now with the active, it's pretty straightforward, but something that I've not really seen many Billy players do in my games is, let's say you're low health, you can walk into a camp, pop your blasted and just sit here and light melee, and the health gain you're getting from blasted is going to actually be a net positive. So you're actually going to come out of the camp with more health than you entered by just spamming light melee. You can shoot to make it go faster, but this is just as good. So I entered the camp with about 100 health, and I'm leaving it with about 330 health. So pretty good in lane and in jungling in general, just to try to keep yourself healthy. And you can use it on center sacrifices. So it's really nice to maybe keep healthy. Something else to note is when you do melee, you do refresh ammo, and it works on every enemy except lane creeps. Now, let's talk about Chain Gang, his ultimate. So Chain Gang is pretty simple. It deals spirit damage, and it says it does 150 damage, but really that's damage over time, and then the remaining damage is like a burst damage at the end. So if we ult, we have this circle, we pull them towards it, and then they take 150 damage. But while they're getting dragged, they take a like certain DPS while being pulled, and then once they get there, they'll take the rest of the damage in like a big like nuke. So something to note about this ability is if you lose line of sight for 1 second, the chain will break. Another thing that's not stated is if you are above beyond 40 meters, regardless if you have line of sight, your ability, your chain will break. Another thing is if you pop your ult and hop on a zip, your ultimate will just break. Uh, Something you can do with this ultimate is you can just run out of this like light circle, and as long as you have line of sight, they will get pulled to you. So you can use this to kind of your advantage to where you can pull them to where you want to, instead of trying to just try to keep on top of them. Now we talked about Billy's abilities. Let's go over his AP cost real quick. So for Bash Down, 1 AP cost, negative 10-second cooldown, 2 AP cost plus 1.3 meter radius, 5 AP cost now deals 60% heavy melee damage. For Rising Ram, 1 AP cost on impact, negative 50% cooldown, 2 AP cost on impact plus 25% weapon damage for 5 seconds, and 5 AP cost on impact deals 6% max health as spirit damage. For Blasted, 1 AP cost while blasted plus 1.75 meters per second bonus move speed. 2 AP cost plus 1 bash down charge on use and plus 5% wrecked bullet amp. 5 AP cost plus 50 melee bonus health. And for Chain Gang, 1 AP cost, negative 25-second cooldown, 2 AP cost plus 15% spirit resist and bullet resist, and plus 5 AP cost plus 100 spirit damage on pull, unstoppable for 2 seconds. So here is what my ability point order usually looks like on Billy. I put my first 3 AP in the Blasted. I put my next AP into my Bash Down, and then another point into Rising Ram for the cooldown reduction. And then I max Bash Down. There are other Billy players who like to opt more for maxing Blasted first, and I think that is still pretty good. It's still a good way to play Billy, as you will be uh, getting tankier in fights. After that, I like to go and put 1 point to Chain Gang, get the lower cooldown, and then I go back and max my Blasted, and then I go and max my Chain Gang, because I think it might be a little bit better than just maxing the Rising Ram. Alright, now let's talk about some of the items you should be buying on Billy. Starting with the goated items. The items you should probably almost always be buying on Billy. So first up, we have Melee Lifesteal and Life Strike. These are going to be your sustain items and items that are going to just enable you to always be fighting and never really have to retreat. Next up, we have Spirit Strike and Spirit Snatch. These are going to be your damaging items, as well as also making you really tanky by stealing people's Spirit Resist. It is very good. Extra Charge and Rapid Recharge, plain and simple, just gives you more bash downs. Billy wants to hit people with his bat, he's going to hit people with his bat. Next up, we have some synergy items. So Fleetfoot and Enduring Speed and in Warpstone, we'll throw all the three of these together. Basically enable you to stay on top of people and not let them run away. Kind of same goes for Cold Front. Cold Front is going to allow you to be in people's faces, gives you extra damage as well as that 60% movement slow. And I threw Arctic Blast in here too because it's just kind of the same thing. And here's Torrent Pulse. Torrent Pulse is my favorite item to buy on Billy besides the goaded items. I think this is one of the best items Billy can buy. It gives him health, it gives him melee resist, and it lets him just deal even more damage just for being on top of people. Now I have a special case here, Radiant Regen. I think I'm probably one of the only Billy players I've seen who actually builds this item, and I think it's very underrated on him. But I put it in special case because you should only be buying it with Torment Pulse, I believe. As when you have Torment Pulse, you're almost always going to be proccing the first part of the passive on people, and Billy's pretty much a spellcaster. He casts a lot of spells, so the second part of Radiant Regen is actually pretty valuable on him. And most of my games, Radiant Regen heals pretty consistently top 3, and sometimes almost top 1. Next up, here's just kind of an overview of items I'd buy on Billy. If you have any questions about any of these items, just put a comment below and I'll reply to you about any of these items. Alright, now let's talk about some of the combos with Billy. So first up, we have Rising Ram into Bashdown. So you're just going to 2 into a 1. Next up, we're going to do, once we have 2 point or 3 AP into Blasted, we can now kind of do a more of a chain combo where we can Rising Ram, 1, Blasted, and 1 again. So it would look more like this. And that's going to be like probably the main combo you're going to be using on Billy to really squeeze out a lot of damage. Now you can also do something more like this. You can start with Bash Down into a Blasted, into Rising Ram, then Bash Down, so like this. So that's just another way of like, doing the combo. Like let's say you can't really get to them with Rising Ram, or you're already right on top of them. You can just hit them with the Bash Down and then Rising Ram Blasted. Next up, we're going to have some ult combos. So first and foremost, you ult people. You can run away, and they're going to be pulled to you. You're going to Rising Ram and bash down. And obviously, you can get even more in depth with the uh, blasted combo. So you can run away, bring them to you, Rising Ram, pick up, bash down, blasted, bash down. And that's pretty much it for the Billy combos. Like it's not too intricate. You can do some cool things like with cold front where you can 3 in cold front, bash down, blasted, bash down. And you can also do something with like warp stone where you can warp stone away. That way you can just drag them even further. And there is kind of like this is not really big a combo, but I kind of buy it sometimes, especially if I'm against flyers. You can alt Warpstone in, chain people, and it's kind of like a meme, but like still a good way to just get your combos off or get your chain gang off. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Billy. And that's the Billy guide, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching. This was my first YouTube video ever, so I really hope that I did all right. If you have any comments on how I can improve, always just put them down in the comments. Um, I guess as a YouTuber, I should say make sure you like and subscribe, of course. I stream almost every day on twitch.tv/nkd_dl. The link will be in the subscription. I hope you guys will come out and enjoy. And yeah, I've really been enjoying Billy, and I think you guys will also enjoy him once you kind of understand how the hero plays. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you guys later.